And we're live. Hello, folks. Sorry about that. Just popping on a wee moment early to make sure everything's okay as usual. Uh, I'd done a wee bit of fiddling around with the desk and so on. I'd stripped the computer to clean it, etc. And generally had put all my plug back in the wrong ports. So I'm not sure if anybody's there or not yet. We usually start at 10 o'clock. So I'm on a little bit early just to get organized, I suppose. So in the meantime, if anybody is out there, do say hello while I get everything set up. It's been a funny old week here in Northern Ireland. A week of madness, actually, as usual, but nothing really out of the ordinary. But yes, indeed. So I shall just sip some of the old precious fluids. There's Babs saying evening, Doc. Hello, Babs. How you doing? Thanks for joining us as always. It's been a week. It's been a day as well. To be honest with you, we see what happened to me today. We sold our house today. Hey, and immediately after, my little torque broke. Sadly, there, and it's unique. My parents, who owned this house prior to me, sent me some money for my 21st birthday whenever I was in London, and I went to a silversmith who made traditional handcraft Celtic jewellery, each piece unique, and I spent all of it on this. And it's just literally after selling this today, we've got an offer in that's been accepted, so we're starting the process. This snapped on me. It's done it before, actually. But I'm not superstitious or anything. It's just the timing of it I thought was bizarre. It's been a long time since it stopped. And there's a jeweler that actually usually fixes it for me. Each time it gets snapped, we tend to add silver to it to fix it, which has increased its value over the years. But these are my Celtic hounds. I don't know if you can see them that well or not. Everybody thinks they're dragons, but they're not. They're Irish dogs, which we're very fond of. There's 10 o'clock, folks. I will say hello to everybody out there. Thank you very much for joining me. My name's Doc Sloan. Welcome to the Doghouse, also my science fiction station. We're looking at chapter 21 tonight of God Emperor of Dune. There's Scorched Earth Policy 6. Congrats on the sale of the house. Thank you very much. Yeah, where we live at the minute is not, I don't know, Corian's gone to hell. And in a handbasket, as they would say. And, there's wife-beating Nazis in the streets organizing people against anybody whose skin color is different than theirs. We're getting little fragments of what's been going on in Belfast and stuff, So, yeah, we just want out of here. I was born in Corian, but I wasn't raised here, and I don't like the place at all. To be honest, I haven't liked it for a long time. So no, we're delighted, and we've got to get our act our act together and get out there and buy another house. But we're going to see a bunch of them over the next couple of weeks. So yeah, looking forward to it. It's I've been sick to death of showing people around the house for the last 4 or 5 months, to be honest with you. But thank you very much, Babs. Saying nice, good on getting the house sold. Now you gotta move. Yes, indeed we do. Babs is saying howdy policy. Yes, indeed. No, it's been a mad week here up in Belfast. With basically, we've had a very bad attempted murder. I'm sure you've all heard about it on the news. I won't discuss it too much because it's an active court case and so on. But the following riots have targeted anybody pretty much whose skin color isn't white, and actually they've thrown in a few white people as well, and Northern Irish people. So it's the usual madness. They're mostly 16 to 18 year olds. They're teenagers who come from atavistically retarded households, sadly. And the police response wasn't particularly good on the first day, though. I think they've got their act together on the second day. But yeah, the wife's had to come home from work early a couple of days in a row. Just too dangerous up there. But as I said, it's nothing really new for Northern Ireland. There's an awful lot of ignorant commentators online from pretty much everywhere who are all this is making all sorts of comments, and they don't actually really understand the nature of Northern Ireland at all, and they really don't understand that a lot of people here are racist as hell. and always have been. It's that kind of insular, backward country, and you've got demagogues and political pundits stirring it up, because emotions work well on people without brain cells, But yeah, it's a bit bonkers. Just in terms of housekeeping this week, I suppose. But yeah, I can't wait to move house. We're all delighted. We're a bit nervous about it yesterday. I've just finished this. Wow. For, the third part. This is Endymion, by the way, by Dan Simmons. The third part of the Hyperion Cantos. An absolute solid 600 pages, ending with some lovely quotes from Keats from Ode to Grecian Urn, which I particularly love, and such an enjoyable book. And he really knows how to tease you right at the end, with a bit of mystery, a bit of foreshadowing, a bit of a cliffhanger, all set to go with this. Aha! So it's been a while since I've read these, but I'm ready to go with. I haven't started it yet, but I literally finished Endymion today. This will be the last of the books in the Hyperion Cantos. Is the Rise of Endymion. Can't wait to get into this. I'll be starting this tonight. Again, just for your money's worth, this one is 7. Hey, Endymion was 600 pages. This one's 756. It's a good chunky book, and it's just great storytelling. Just fantastic storytelling. What an accomplished writer! What an amazing imagination. I said my favorite thing about Dan Simmons is he does intertextuality better than he did. Sadly, he's passed away, hasn't he? Intertextuality, he's so good at it. He's a master of it, and all sorts of writers try to do it. It's even just reading the last one there. It's got me thinking. There's elements of all sorts in there, but including things like the Arabian Nights and stuff. And very much enjoyed her. I'd forgotten all about her. There's an absolutely mental character called Radamanth Nemes. There's a loaded name for you, who we encountered towards the end of Endymion. It's just bonkers. It's brilliant. It's got everything. So highly recommend it. I'm really looking forward to tearing into the Rise of Endymion. Cynthia saying, hi Doc, hi all. How you doing, Cynthia? Good to see you. Bob saying, hi Cynthia. Cynthia saying, I've ordered the Hair Carpet Weavers book you recommended. Look forward to reading it. I have it sitting on my desk. Actually, I was going to mention it again tonight, just with the God Emperors. Yes, indeed. I picked it up as this lovely little set of these are Penguin Classic science fiction. As you can see there, these ones. I picked up 5 of these when they came out. And my goal, I'll just grab them quickly. I think they're here. There they are. I'll do it rightly with them. I like it when we, when publishers tend to pump out here's some obscure sci-fi for you. This is the 5 of them that I bought, and I particularly liked it because it had authors from a few of these authors would be from countries, outside, I suppose, the English-speaking world. But Andreas Eschbach is German. I wonder, is this a debut novel? After reading this, I coloured in the cover, by the way, because that's what it looks like there, on the back there. But this is a fantastic. I think you're going to enjoy it, Cynthia. And yeah, just reading it. Think of the God Emperor when you read it. It's a wonderful book. It's an absolute delight, and I want to give it a year or so and read it again. I enjoyed it so much. I really should have done a wee review on it. The other one, I've read 3 out of the 5, haven't I? So one of them was an Arcadian Boris Strugatsky book, One Billion Years to the End of the World. Nice and thin, very good. Wee bit heavy, not their usual. I don't know. I quite like their light-hearted, weird stuff. I like their full-on sci-fi as well. But that was pretty good. And I read recently this, which is Dimension of Miracles, Robert Sheckley. Douglas, on the back, just to let you know, it says the hilarious science fiction satire. Douglas Adams said it was the only thing like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, although written 10 years earlier. It's wonderful. That's by Neil Gaiman. I don't know. I think it's an interesting little thing. It's weird, is what I would call it. It's a little bit odd. eccentric, maybe, but a lot of the humor doesn't land. Unfortunately, if you do compare this to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, where almost every joke lands full on. The Hitchhiker's Guide is hilarious. You can see that it's almost the humor is almost too intellectual, if you like, and because of that, it's not easy and it's not fun. I mean, the humor, I suppose, but it's an interesting little narrative, and I would still recommend reading it. And so the two that actually, one of them was James Tiptree Jr.'s 10,000 Light Years from Home. I have another copy of this. Have read it. Highly recommend. It's Alice B. Sheldon, of course. A wee collection of her short stories. And the one, only one I haven't read yet. This will be on next on my list. Is Angelica Garodisher, who's from Buenos Aires, born in 1928. And this is Trafalgar, part pulp adventure, part otherworldly meditation. This is the story of Trafalgar Medrano, intergalactic trader and lover of bitter coffee and black cigarettes. In the bars and cafes of Rosario, Argentina, he recounts tall tales of his space escapades involving, among other things, time travel and dancing troglodytes. Just the reviews here from Tora, kind of magical realism for science fiction, quite brilliant. A unique brand of science fiction, unlike anything I've ever read. As I said, I come from a culture that doesn't produce science fiction. Even the Comic-Con is still nothing, in this era. I go to the Comic-Cons each year to see if I can sniff anything out. But that's them. But the Hair Carpet Weavers is fantastic. It reads like a series of little vignettes. I'll not spoil it for you, Cynthia, and I think you'll love it. I'd love to know what you think of it once you've it read. And it's and stick with it. It's a great book. I loved it. I adore it, actually. And not that I give out too much, but I really must see. I'd like to look into Andreas Eschbach as a writer and see what else he's got out there, because this was really impressive, I think. He's it just says here, he's one of Germany's preeminent science fiction writers, born in the city of Ulm, as in the famous Monty Python sketch in 1959. He studied aerospace engineering at the University of Stuttgart. So we've got a proper scientist here, an engineer. The Hair Carpet Weavers is the hard to pick Knupfer, 1995. It was his debut novel. There you go. This is the first novel, so it's very impressive from that. Won the Deutscher Science Fiction Prize, the Belgian Prix Moran, and the French Grand Prix de l'Imaginaire for Best Foreign Language Novel. His subsequent books have won numerous prizes in Germany and been translated into a number of languages, including English, French, Italian, Russian, Serbian, Polish, Turkish, and Japanese. It's really sad when you get books like this. It used to be a thing that you would have other books by the author, So I'll have to go nosing. But for anybody who's a Dune fan, you'll read this and go, oh yeah, I'm gonna stop gushing about it. But I hope you enjoy it. Something I think it's fantastic. And so let me know what you think of it whenever you've read it. Let's see, just catching up with your comments there. Since hi Babs, hey Doc, says Carlos. Greetings, Carlos. Greetings and salutations. Evening, ladies and gentlemen. And so they're saying hi, Colin. There's Julian saying, hey, everybody. Sorry I can't be around the whole time, but I'm dropping in to say hello. No worries, Julian. We know you're busy studying Mr. Joyce. Dear, oh dear. But it's good to see you. Thank you very much for popping in. We've got an interesting wee chapter tonight. I imagine this one will go quick. There's not too much for me to do work on. In that sense, it's a narrative driver, if you like, and it's a character introduction. In many ways, to the ambassador for Hwi Noree and her uncle Malky, who has been a previous boon companion to the God Emperor and ambassador for Ix as well. There's one wee thing we had to look up tonight, but as I said, this is a lot of dialogue, so these big chapters that take me forever to write out generally go quite quickly, whereas the little chapters that we go through tend to have a lot more work in them. I don't know why that is. It's an interesting thing. Now, let me grab my paperweight. There we go. That's where we start. Got my book open, got an ashtray, got my drink. Right, I'm ready to go, folks. Mm. Weather is diabolical here today. Had 50 shades of rain and then some. Hasn't stopped raining all day. It's just been a horrible week. Managed to get one day of slightly decent weather over the last week or so. Every variation of rain you can imagine, which ends up having very muddy dogs walking in the house. Right, let's get cracking. We've got a nice short epigraph here for you folks. Another festival so soon, the Lord Leto asked. It has been 10 years, the Major Domo said. Do you think by this exchange that the Lord Leto betrays an ignorance of time's passage? And this is from the oral history, which at this point, I think we pretty much have to just go with it's Leto. If you see what I mean. He controls all of this. It's an interesting question, I suppose. Do we think that the Leto betrays an ignorance of time's passage? I've just written this yes or no. I wonder what we think. Sorry, let me just move that over a wee bit. That's better. I'm looking off to one side there, folks. Nice and short, I suppose. Another festival so soon, 10 years. That's not that soon, is it, for anybody, a full decade? Okay, off we go, folks. Let's tear into this. Again, if anybody's at this one, I'll probably go quite quick. I'll probably be just reading away. I'll do my usual pausing to make any wee comments and stuff. But if anybody has got any wee questions or comments or wants to bring anything up within this, let me know. As usual. Right, fluids, here we go. During the private audience period preceding the festival proper, many commented that the God Emperor spent more than the allotted time with the new Ixian ambassador, a young woman named Hwi Noree. Right, oops. Sorry, ice cube rattling there. She was brought down at mid-morning by two fish speakers who were still full of first-day excitement. The private audience chamber beneath the plaza was brilliantly illuminated. The light revealed a room about 50 meters long by 35 wide. Antique Fremen rugs decorated the walls, their bright patterns worked in jewels and precious metals, all combined in weavings of priceless spice fibers. The dull reds of which the old Fremen had been so fond predominated the chamber's floor. Oh, sorry, predominated. I do apologize. I'll read that again. The dull reds of which the old Fremen had been so fond predominated. The chamber's floor was mostly transparent, a setting for exotic fishes worked in radiant crystal. Beneath the floor flowed a stream of clear blue water, all of its moisture sealed away from the audience chamber, but excitingly near Leto, who rested on a padded elevation at the end of the room opposite the door. Oddly enough, that's why I kept just the antique Fremen rugs. That's why I kept this book handy for tonight. I've written next this, see Andreas Eschbach's Hair Carpet Weavers, Cynthia. There you go. Yes, indeed. His first view of Hwi Noree revealed a remarkable likeness to her uncle Malky, but her grave movements and the calmness of her stride were equally remarkable in their differences. And sorry, I'll do that again. That's my handwriting. Her first view of Hwi Noree revealed a remarkable likeness to her uncle Malky, but her grave movements and the calmness of her stride were equally remarkable in their difference from Malky. She did not have that dark skin. Oh, sorry, again. I'm all over the place today. She did have that dark skin, though. The oval face with its regular features. Placid brown eyes stared back at Leto, and where Malky's hair had been grey, hers was a luminous brown. Hwi Noree radiated an inner peace, which Leto sensed spreading its influence around her as she approached. She stopped 6 paces away below him. There was a classical balance about her, something not accidental. With growing excitement, Leto realized a betrayal of Ixian machinations in the new ambassador. They were well along in their own program to breed selective types for specific functions. Hwi Noree's function was distressingly obvious: to charm the God Emperor, to find a chink in his armor. Pardon me. So very interestingly enough, breeding programs. I suppose the only people that we've really considered involved in those up until now have been obviously the Bene Gesserit, the Bene Thylax to a degree. There's something going on there in terms of breeding individuals. Sorry, just bringing this light down a wee bit there. There we go. That's not too bad, is it? Oh, there we are. Apologies. But apparently now we have X has a breeding program. We're told selective breeding. And interestingly enough, that's not. We were kind of, we think up at this point that the God Emperor is in control of all the breeding programs about. Particularly the Bene Gesserit one, that he's taken it away from them, hasn't he, to a degree? Pardon me. So Hwi Noree's function, she's been bred to charm the God Emperor to find a chink in his armor. Despite this, as the meeting progressed, Leto found himself truly enjoying her company. Hwi Noree stood in a puddle of daylight, which was guided into the chamber by a system of Ixian prisms. The light filled Leto's end of the chamber with glowing gold, which centered on the ambassador, dimming behind the God Emperor, where stood a short line of fish speaker guards, 12 women chosen for their inability to hear or speak. Sorry, I'm all over the place today. I was absolutely dog tired when I was doing this, and I ended up making lots of wee mistakes in the text that had to fix them. Let's see, Carlos is saying, I wonder if the Ixians collaborated with the Thylaxu in the creation of Hwi. It seems a bit out of their wheelhouse. I think we'll get an answer to that, but I think that the information has passed, certainly, and possibly with the Bene Gesserit as well. I suppose breeding for a type. The God Emperor does it. And of course, the Bene Gesserit have always been breeding towards the Kwisatz Haderach, but we've never really been told if they're breeding towards anything else as well. As much as you can control breeding, the end goal of the Kwisatz Haderach is one thing. Surely you would breed for other things as well. But it's a good question. There's Chaya saying, Shalom, all, hope everyone is well. Shalom, Chaya, greetings and salutations. Glad to see you. I hope you're well too. It's good. Yeah, good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. We're just getting going. God, I was at these notes for the last couple of days, and I was half asleep. I'm going to have to watch to see if I've made a whole bunch of mistakes today. It's one of those ones where the mistakes I was making where I write out a sentence and then rewrite it again. But hopefully it will not be too bad. Let's see how my usual bad handwriting holds up. There's Flaccid House saying, evening all. Greetings, Flaccid House. How you doing? Oh, by the way, just if he's not, I don't know if he's in tonight or not, but again, just a wee quick shout out to Sootpot, by the way. I'm not sure if you're still in hospital or listening or very happy on medication, but I hope you're getting better. And a wee shout out to Atranica as well. So greetings, Flaccid House. Thanks for joining us. Evening all, you say. And there's at Faldrich, 1990, Hwi is in a puddle of light, hinting that Hwi could be dangerous to Leto. Very good. Yes. Water turbs, and water. I suppose we could well pay attention to that. It's a very interesting little phrase, isn't it? Puddle of daylight. Sorry, just quickly coloring something in there. Also of interest, I suppose, in this is that the fish speaker guards here, 12 women chosen for their inability to hear or speak. We had a mistake a while back, didn't we? I'm trying to remember which book it was in, where we had a guard who was a mute, if you recall. We pointed it out at the time so that they couldn't hear the conversation. Of course, it was the wrong term, wasn't it? That person should have been deaf. So it's possible that a word had been accidentally dropped from that text. But here we have deaf mutes, so they're unable to hear. And they're unable to talk about it. Though I'd imagine they could learn to lip. They would probably, as deaf mutes, probably know how to lip read. But it was just a wee point. This is something that Frank messed up. We think it's possibly a wee publishing error or something before, where we had mutes instead of deaf mutes. Hwi wore a simple gown of purple ambiel, decorated only by a silver necklace pendant stamped with the symbol of Ix. Soft sandals, the colour of her gown, peeked from beneath her helm. Now, bear with me a wee second, because Ambiel isn't really a word, is it? However, it is a surname. Now, Ambiel's primary surname of French and Jewish origin, serving as a variant of the personal name Amiel. Let's see, that's just this AI overview, which I don't really trust. So we've had a wee bunch of these. I'll have to do a wee bit more work on this. Oh, I found one of the other words that we were looking at, by the way. It's both the surname and a given name. It's rooted to the Hebrew name Amiel with another M. And then there's a big list of notable people there. But all words have meaning, don't they? Let's see. Oh, here we go. Ambiel, Proto-Slavic wellspring. Interestingly enough, pool. Let's get that down here. Or body of water. Aha! I couldn't find it the other night. Now we've got something. Actually, what it came up with in my search was a fictional material, a word invented by Frank Herbert, but it's generally not the case. It's Carnian, isn't it? There we go. A Carnian word etymology inherited from the Proto-Slavic well or spring, as a noun, pool or body of water. Excellent. Now taking on that further with the puddle of daylight, spring, body of water. Let's just get that down very quickly. Oh, I suppose that's a good time to do. While I remember, folks, a couple of chapters back, I believe we had a whole bunch of references. This is the biblical references. I don't like that term, ancient world references. But one of the ones, there were three that we couldn't get: Shuites, Umlias, and Gebel. We got the Shuites, and we filled it in our notes. The Shuites, it's a different spelling than Frank has put it here. It would be, in this book, it's Shuites, and it should be Shuhites. So the Shuites are the descendants of Shua, who's a son of Abraham and Keturah. You find that in Genesis 25, 1-2. And we also have a reference to Bildad the Shuhite, who's one of Job's buddies, who becomes one of his accusers. You'll find him in Job books 8, 18, and 25. Let's see. What it basically means is an inhabitant of what would be a northern region of modern day Syria. Shua actually means ditch, swimming, humiliation, balance, or a cry for help. And we also the part of the region of modern day Syria, northern Syria, would have been the land of Shushu, if I'm saying that correctly. So that's one of the words that we didn't get. We don't like to leave them. There's still two that we're looking for, and I'm still hunting them. But there we go. We've got a bit of a meaning for Ambiel. Pardon me. Yes, yeah, danger. I like that. It was a very good observation. Faldrick 1990. There's Baked Alaska. Joe saying hi to all. Greetings, Joe. Yeah, if we haven't said hello to everybody out there, thank you very much for joining us as always. As I said, I think this will be a quick one tonight because of the nature of the chapter. But we've got something interesting to stop at and have a wee bit of an adder about. So we had 12 fish guard speakers, and they were chosen for their inability to hear or speak. Hwi Noree wore a simple gown of purple ambiel, decorated only by a silver necklace pendant stamped with the symbol of Ix. Soft sandals, the colour of her gown, peeked from beneath her helm. "Are you aware," Leto asked her, "that I killed one of your ancestors?" That's a nice way to start a conversation, isn't it? She smiled softly. "My uncle Malky included that information in my early training, Lord." As she spoke, Leto realized that part of her education had been conducted by the Bene Gesserit. She had their way of controlling her responses, of sensing the undertones in a conversation. He could see, however, that the Bene Gesserit overlay had been a delicate thing, never penetrating the basic sweetness of her nature. So we're going to build up a range of characteristics, if you like, of Hwi Noree within this chapter. Um, she's a delicate thing, never, and the basic sweetness of her nature. She's being presented to us as a very kind of nice, almost holier than thou type figure, I think. This is Leto. You were told that I would introduce the subject, he said. That's not a question. Yes, Lord. I know that my ancestor had the temerity to bring a weapon here in an attempt to harm you, as did your immediate predecessor. Were you told that as well? I did not learn it until my arrival, Lord. They were fools. Why did you spare my predecessor when I did not spare your ancestor? Yes, Lord. Kobat, your predecessor, was more valuable to me as a messenger. Then they told me the truth, she said. Again, she smiled. One cannot always depend on hearing truth from one's associates and superiors. The response was so utterly open that Leto could not suppress a chuckle. Even as he laughed, he realized that this young woman still possessed the mind of first awakening, the elemental mind, which came in the first shock of birth awareness. She was alive. Then you do not hold it against me that I killed your ancestor, he asked. He tried to assassinate you. I am told you crushed him, Lord, with your own body. True. And next you turned his weapon against your own holy self to demonstrate that the weapon was ineffectual, and it was the best lasgun we Ixians could make. The witnesses reported correctly, Leto said. Before we jump on then, I've got a bunch of notes here. I'll run through them quite quickly. This was pretty interesting stuff, actually. I'll probably bring up a link for you here. Let me just quickly type the word in. I usually bookmark these things. Let me see, did I? No, I didn't. Let's just plug. I've got a wee folder for God Emperor of Dune. Let's throw it in there. Now, what we're talking about here, this is in relation to the mind of first awakening, the elemental mind, which came in the first shock of birth awareness. So the mind of first awakening, let me just copy that link for you, is a term from Zen Buddhism. I was reading away about this today, yesterday actually. I found it quite interesting. So I'll just run through my wee notes. I've lifted them from Wikipedia, and there's a wee link for you to what's called Shoshin. So the mind of first awakening, also known as the beginner's mind, comes from Zen Buddhism and is known as Shoshin, which is, I suppose, equal to having an attitude of openness, eagerness, and a lack of preconceptions when studying, even at an advanced level. Sounds good. Popularized outside of Japan by Shunryu Suzuki's 1970 book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, which is published by Weatherhill, New York, and Tokyo, 1970. The term is found in Zen Buddhism, Japanese calligraphy, and Japanese martial arts. It's meant to act as a counter to hubris and closed-mindedness that comes from thinking of oneself as an expert. I've just written also here, see the Einstellung effect. Shoshin, taught by 13th century Zen Buddhist monk, writer, poet, and philosopher Dogen Zenji, was the founder of the Kyoto School of Zen Buddhism and the founder of Soto Zen, School of Zen Buddhism. Dojo Zenji's dates are the 26th of January 1200 to the 26th of September 1253. He's a very interesting chap. His famous writings include the Shobo Genzo, which is in English means the treasury of the true Dharma Eye, and the Ihai, if I'm pronouncing this correctly, the Ihai Koroku, which translates as an extensive record, which is I suppose a collection of all his talks and speeches, etc. Just for a bit of fun, by the way, you don't get to see too many of these. I need some fluids. But I've got Dogen Zenji's death poem here. And it's a really interesting subject, though it's kind of a bit, I don't know, I find it a bit obvious, but it's, yeah, don't let your head, swell too big if you consider yourself an expert. It's keep an open mind, basically. Don't make the assumption that you know everything, this kind of thing. I think it's a very, I didn't know there was a kind of Japanese term for it, I suppose, but I think it's a very healthy idea. I would call it don't let your head swell too big so you can't get out the door, this kind of thing. Even how do we go, by the way, because I like doing this when we get little glyphs and symbols. There we are. That is the little character for Shoshin there. So here is, I think this is excellent. Dogen Zenji's death poem. Here we go. 54 years lighting up the sky. A quivering leap smashes a billion worlds. Ha! Entire body looks for nothing. Living, I plunge into yellow springs. There you go. Isn't that good? That's taken from Moon in the Dewdrop, which is the writings of Zen Master Dogen by Kazuaki Tanahashi, who's the editor. It's published in New York by North Point Press, 1997. And I've also written down here, see also Bame Takahashi's 2009 film Zen, which is a biopic of Dogen Zenji's life. There we go. A lot of interesting stuff. It inspired me to get a haiku out of something in this today, which I'll read to you in a couple of pages time. Oh, there's Chaya saying, what words are you still researching? No problem. They are, we've got, this is from the chapter where we had the stuff about oh god, brain kicking, Omri and Ashur-Nazir-Apli the second. It was that chapter where we got a whole list of I think they're basically meant to be all the people that Ashur-Nazir-Apli the second had conquered. Where are we? Bear with me a wee second. Oh, do the Kings of it. That's it. That's the same chapter. Hang on. There we go. There we go. So we had tons of them. We had Urmia, Comagir, Kabur. So Shuites was one. Frank's changed the spelling. So that the two that were after China, I'll just type them out for you, are Umlius, that's one, and Gebel. So I'm guessing they're terms for, they're probably terms for places in the Middle East from biblical times, if you like. They're meant to be, I suppose be better to say Assyrian times, wouldn't it? They're meant to be places that Ashur-Nazir-Apli conquered. Let's just see. They're from the epigraph of chapter 19. Let me just quickly check. His conquests included the Urmia Lake. So we found them all except two now. Those two. There were loads. Urmia Lake region, which led him to Comagene and Kabur. His son received tribute from the Shuites, from Tyr, Sidon, Gebel, Gebel. That's one we can't find. And even from Yehu, son of Omri, whose name struck terror into thousands. Conquests which began with Ashur-Nazir-Apli carried arms into Media and later into Israel, Damascus, Edom, Arpad, Babylon, and Umlius. So it's the last one there. All the rest we have. It's just we like to be thorough, you know. But I love words anyway. Yeah, I think as always with a lot of things, we get a lot. The meaning is enhanced. I think Frank doesn't often choose words for no reason, if you like, you know. I don't know. I don't think there's anything particularly in his biography or anything about it. I must have a nosy, but he seems to have a great interest in etymology. The etymological work in this keeps me really busy, to be honest with you. But that's the two there, Umlius and Gebel, and I suspect that we need to alter the spelling of those a bit to find out what they are. But they'll be geographic locations, probably somewhere between Mesopotamia and Israel, Jordan, that kind of area, I suppose, which is where most of them are, I think. Let me see quickly. Well, yeah. Let's see. Lake Urmia was in Iran. We had a Greco-Iranian kingdom near Samosata. We had the Kabur River, which is the largest tributary to the Euphrates in Syria. We've got a bunch of them we know, Tyre, Israel, Damascus. All of these are still about today, aren't they? We were looking. Well, the Shuhites were a people, and we got them. As I said, Bildad the Shuhite. That's to do with the story of Job, but as one of the descendants of Shua, who's a son of Abraham and Keturah, in Genesis 25, 1-2. So that was one of the ones that we didn't have. Edom, we know. Arpad was a Syrian city. Babylon, we know again. So Gebel, Gebel, I'm not too sure of, and Umlius. I like the word Umlius. Sounds nice, doesn't it? It has a particular ring to it. But yeah, if you can figure them out, I'm still looking too. As I said, sometimes you got to change the name or use a different search engine, actually, And then if all else fails me, I tend to go to I've got Encyclopedia Britannicas here, quite old ones, and then I've also got a similar kind of Britannica 6-language dictionary. So I tend to hit the books as well as the web, but my resources are limited, Saying that, the web's searching, as long as you can siphon out the rubbish, of which there's an awful lot, we can usually find the stuff, So there we go. That was a bit, just in case anybody didn't know about it, the Mind of First Awakening. Frank has got a big interest in Zen Buddhism, though interestingly enough, we've kind of discussed the breakup of all the different religious influences within the Dune series. We kind of particularly had a look in terms of one of the appendices of way back when we were looking at Dune. Zen Buddhism, we don't get a lot. We get the Zen Sunnis, this kind of the hybridization of Zen Buddhism, I suppose, but we've not had a particular drop of a number of terms or anything like that from Frank. So it's interesting to see one here. And I said, Shoshin, keep an open mind. Don't let your head swell too much. If you're an expert, don't assume you know everything. It's, I don't know, there's a wee thing I used to say to you is I know a lot, but what I don't know fills the entire universe. That's my attitude towards it. I'm thoroughly ignorant of so many things, and I take great joy in learning stuff, and I've no bother being proved wrong about something. My ego is not that fragile. If I make a mistake or get something wrong, no bother. I own your own shit, if you know what I mean. That kind of thing. It's a healthy, it's a very healthy attitude to have. It served me well pretty much while I was an academic, if you see what I mean. And it's a very good attitude to have if you're doing a PhD. Very weirdly, I don't know, a lot of people doing PhDs have outrageous egos, just because they're doing a PhD. In other words, they got, right at the very beginning, the amount of swollen heads I encountered in my first year, and many of whom had disappeared, sadly, for them by the end of the first year, because their work, they didn't, it didn't do too well, or they didn't put in enough work for their first year Viva. And then we saw a colossal wipeout of students at the end of the second year, who had been doing PhDs, particularly the science ones, that if their lab work or their data had messed up in any shape or form, bye-bye, you're gone. And basically anybody who was coasting or not doing any work by the end of the second year, bye-bye, you're gone. We just saw lots of people put out. I used to call it was a cull as far as I was concerned. It was quite weird. My first year doing my PhD, your first year Viva over here anyway, you're supposed to hand in about 5,000 words. And by the time my first year Viva, I handed in 20,000 words, which is essentially the first 5 episodes of the DVDs or the videos, that we have on the channel. So I was just working away and thought you might as well have what I've got, But that's what it's about, really, not having a massive ego, keeping an open mind. But especially if you're an expert or a teacher or someone whose job it is to pass on information, don't just, shoshin. It's always interesting that you can get. I love the way certain cultures have one word that says it all, if you know what I mean. Ireland's got the crack, if you know what I mean, and that term, the number of things it means is outrageous. But I love certain words for that they're often foreign words that come in. Oh, what's that word mean? Or it's you have to describe it in many words, but some cultures have a single word for it. Schadenfreude is a great one for that kind of thing. There's loads of them. But there you go. I've learned a new word from Japan, shoshin. Um, and I have to say, having a reread about Dogen Zenji, there's a movie about him from 2009, Zen, it's called. I think I might track it down and watch it. He seems like an interesting chap. Though I know very little about Zen Buddhism. What was that? A long time ago. I suppose the closest I've got to learning anything about Zen Buddhism is not, I don't know, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance by Robert M. Prisick, if anybody knows that. I've actually got the sequel to it somewhere, which I haven't read. There it is. It's called Leela. Do you know something? I can't remember Zen on the motorcycle. Art of Motorcycle. Not even too sure if it's about Zen Buddhism or not. To be honest with you, I read it a long time ago. When I was reading just an awful lot of kind of counterculture stuff. Let's see. Yeah, there you go. There's Zen in the Art. Recommend it anyway. I remember enjoying it, but apart from that, I don't really remember too much about it. It's good to be read. This paperback's it's close to 400 pages, if not dead on. Let me see. Yeah, it's 406 pages. This is I picked this up. Isn't it a sequel? I think instead of a motorcycle, a sailboat. Yeah, it is actually Phaedrus. This one is Leela, an inquiry into morals. Robert M. Pirsig, author of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. So my plan was, whenever it comes for the reread of this, was to read the two together, which I haven't got around to yet. I love the cover, by the way. You see that there with your the spanner with the flower? That's pretty cool. That's a pretty famous counterculture book, isn't it? Oh. But I seem to remember thinking it wasn't. Was it there a tag for that book that said it's not much about Zen and not much about motorcycles either? Something like that. There we go. And it's Treaties 1405. Greetings and salutations. Says always leave yourself room to be surprised. Yes, indeed. I love new things. And I try to do something new every day in a funny way. Sorry, I just got a little bit of glare on my screen here from this lamp. I can lower that down a bit. There we go. But yeah, even if it's trying a new food or a new drink, words are great for that. You can open up a dictionary, find a word you don't know. You've done something new. You've learned something new today. And I used to do that. I quite like Wikipedia's kind of front page. If you know what I mean, it's quite interesting for you got your featured article in the news. But on this day, and did you know? Those kind of things are great for just finding out little tidbits about stuff. And they have a featured picture. There's today's the mirror frog, and you can read all about the mirror frog. So there's ways of bringing something new into your life every single day, if you can, and it's a good thing. I think it's a healthy attitude. It doesn't have to be epic or involve you crossing, the world or anything. But it's always nice to meet somebody from a new culture, a different country than your own. I said I live in a particularly nasty, insular, xenophobic, atavistically retarded country. So I've always thought that lots of people from other cultures coming in here has been a good thing, because Northern Ireland's people have been so insular and so backward in many ways. So it's great. I love it. I love meeting people from different countries. I suppose a lot more than I like meeting people from my own, because they seldom have anything new to say, because they're so rooted in rite and tradition and things like that. Seldom have anything interesting to say. Seldom have anything new to offer, if you see what I mean. It's a bit sad. But there you go. Yeah, interesting thing. I read Zen. That's Cynthia saying I read Zen motorcycle in high school. I remember it as an introduction to philosophy, a study of the relation between theory and practice. Don't remember it as a Zen book either. No, I read it. I read it my undergrad year, first year in undergrad, and everybody was swapping all sorts of books like that. God, the amount of stuff that I read that year was ridiculous. That wasn't to do with my course, but it was an interesting thing. Some of the books I remember well. Some not so much. I suppose that was the first year I got heavily into cannabis smoking. So at that time, whenever I used to read, I had problems with the words floating off the page. But it was we have the story HMV here, and they still do actually. We just don't have too many of the stores, and they used to publish lots of counterculture books and science fiction books, oddly enough, obscure ones. But I don't know. That's probably where it came from. I think that one's possibly, I don't know, it's just a second-hand copy. But I would buy a lot of things like that. Just lent somebody bad wisdom there the other day. Books like that. I don't know. But HMV is very good for getting the old sci-fi masterworks books, and you can get them for a few quid. You used to get a bunch of them for about 10 quid, But the amount of stuff I read back then, it's the same as whenever I did the masters in science fiction literature, was that you were just reading so much constantly, that as soon as you had one thing put down, you went on to the next, and it was kind of hard to take the things in. You kind of read them and on you went, But it's a book that I remember kind of being interested in it, and some books I just don't remember too well. But I definitely wanted to, I bought the sequel to it, put it that way. So I was interested enough to buy the second part of it there. But I haven't got around to reading it yet, But I have a whole, we must take you on a tour of my bookshelf sometime. I'm going to have to start packing them up soon, which is not going to be helpful. I have a very good sense of where things. It's oddly enough when my memory tends to kick in, it does. I go, oh, hang on a minute, that's in that book and this part, and it's, I don't know, it's more generalizations of books that I can't remember. But when something specific pops into my head, I can remember what book it is, and even sometimes what chapter it's in, sometimes even what page number it's on. So I've just got a very funny memory for that, But I do like to take my time with a book and absorb it. And I was a very different reader back then, Cynthia, But yeah, it's a good, as Trudy said, always good. Trudy's 1405 said it's always good to be surprised, and I think the best way you can do that is by learning something new every day. It can just be as simple as a word, I remember learning the word enthusiast. It just gave me so much, made me laugh so much. It's one of those Latin words. Ecce, behold, behold my smile, is a person with a fake smile. That's the one word for it, ecce enthusiast, kind of like behold my teeth, behold my smile, isn't it? But it's a great word. Someone who's just, very insincere, that kind of thing. Oh, there's some great words out there. Anyway, there you go, folks. That was our little just quick stop to discuss the mind of First Awakening, the elemental mind, the shock of birth awareness. And there's a couple of books there. And I'd imagine we were talking about where does Frank get his ideas from. In relation to this, we do have this little note here that it wasn't a popular concept outside of Japan until Shun Ryu Suzuki's 1970 book, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, which is an American and Japanese publication from 1970. So there's a fair chance that's where he's got it from. And then that led us on to Dogen Zenji, actually, which is who's the person who kind of came up with the term. But I did like his little death poem there. I thought that was excellent. I just loved it. It had a sense of almost science fiction about it, didn't it? 54 years lighting up the sky, a quivering leap smashes 1 billion worlds. It actually, oddly enough, where your brain, it made me think of this: 1 billion years to the end of the world. How your brain makes little connections and so on. There we go. Now, I just repeated this bit here. Next, you turned your weapon against your own holy self to demonstrate that the weapon was ineffectual, and it was the best lasgun we Ixians could make. The witnesses reported correctly, Leto said. And he thought, which shows you how much you can depend on witnesses. As a matter of historical accuracy, he knew that he had turned the lasgun against his ribbed body, not against his fat hands, face, or flippers. The pre-worm body possessed a remarkable capacity for absorbing heat. The chemical factory within him converted heat to oxygen. I never doubted the story, she said. Why has Ix repeated this foolish gesture? Leto asked. They have not told me, Lord. Perhaps Kobat took it on himself to behave this way. Sorry, trying to grab the right pen. There we go. I was having a go earlier and totally failed to find one. Oh, no, he didn't. He says it's on his right. I just noticed. So he demonstrates his invulnerability by shooting himself in a part that's invulnerable, but there's vulnerability there. We don't trust the God Emperor at all, I think, at this point. Which is weird for our hero, isn't it? Why has Ix repeated this foolish gesture? Leto asked. They have not told me, Lord. Perhaps Kobat took it on himself to behave this way. It's very doubtful, isn't it? I think not. It has occurred to me that your people desired only the death of their chosen assassin. The death of Kobat? No. The death of the one they chose to use the weapon. So when he's talking about, that's Duncan, Idaho. That we're talking about, the one that the previous one, I suppose, the one that we've met who gets killed at the start of the book. Who was that, Lord? I've not been told. It's unimportant. Do you recall what I said at the time of your ancestors' foolishness? You threatened terrible punishment should such violence ever again enter your thoughts. Sorry, our thoughts. God, I made so many wee scribbling mistakes in this. I had to score things out. She lowered her gaze, but not before Leto glimpsed a deep determination in her eyes. She would use the best of her abilities to blunt his wrath. I've made a wee note here just up above this where he says it's unimportant. He's being evasive again. It is actually important who the assassin was. And it just kind of reminds me a wee bit of how he treats Mineo. Not important. Anytime the God Emperor is evasive, if he says it's not important, it probably is, that kind of thing. But it's quite possible that he doesn't want Ix to know. Though I'd imagine it was Kobat that gave or sent, the weapon to Idaho. He doesn't want to feed them any more information than they need. You threatened terrible. Yeah, sorry, I read that. She would use the best of her abilities to blunt his wrath. I promised that none of you would escape my anger, Leto said. She jerked her attention up to his face. Yes, Lord. And now her manner revealed personal fear. None can escape me, not even the futile colony you've recently planted at. And Leto reeled off for her the standard chart coordinates of a new colony the Ixians had planted secretly far beyond what they thought were the reaches of his empire. Now that's interesting. We're not given a planetary name or anything here. Hwi's told the location, Leto knows the location, and what Frank Herbert has done is made sure that we don't know. So again, it's a good technique from our author. He's preserving and creating suspense and mystery for us, the reader, kind of wondering what's this about. I've made a wee note here that we're looking at who's involved in various things within this chapter, I think. But I've made a note that the guild must be involved in this. And I've also said that I've written a wee note that this is important. And I've written, is this the start of the scattering? Is this where it begins? People sending colonies supposedly outside the reach of the Empire, to get away from the God Emperor, to try and do things out there. We kind of wonder if the Ixians are doing this. Is everybody else trying it too? She betrayed no surprise. Lord, I think it was because I warned them you would know of this that I was chosen as ambassador. Now, I've scribbled down here that there's two potential meanings here. One, the Ixians are happy to sacrifice Hwi if necessary, or to use her for what she was designed to do. I've written down, I believe it's option 2, to use her what she's designed to do, in other words, to blunt his wrath. and I've written down how here. This is a test of Hwi's abilities here. Now, just over because of that little death poem, I have written a haiku for us here. Here it goes. Has Ix learned a trick or two from the Tylaxu? More plans within plans. There you go, just for a bit of fun. So we get Leto's thoughts here. And Leto studied her more carefully. What have we here? He wondered. Her observation had been subtle and penetrating. The Ixians, he knew, had thought distance and enormously magnified transportation costs would insulate the new colony. Hwi Noree thought not, and had said so. But she believed her masters had chosen her as ambassador because of this. A comment on the Ixian caution. They thought they had a friend at court here, but one who would also be seen as Leto's friend. He nodded as the pattern took shape. Quite early in his ascendancy, he had revealed to the Ixians the exact location of the supposedly secret Ixian core, the heartland of the technological federation which they governed. It had been a secret the Ixians thought safe because they paid gigantic bribes for it to the Spacing Guild. Leto had winkled them out by prescient observation and deduction, and by consulting his memories where there were more than a few Ixians. Pardon me. So they believed they had a friend at court, basically. They thought they had a friend at court here, but one who would also be seen as Leto's friend. I was kind of wondering who that is. Is that Malky? And possibly they sense that, you know, the God Emperor is a little bit benign towards them because of all of the things that they provide for him. They believe they can hide from him. Hwi Noree doesn't. And it's almost that she's a counter to the normal political deceptions that the various groups go through. And we'll see a little bit of that with Malky as well. I've also written down, by the way, we've got a couple of attributes within this. That we would possibly think of as attributes in previous books, but here we've talked about the Ixian caution. So caution, as we've been told many times within the Dune series, is a trait of the Atreides. Interestingly enough, we've also got that Ix are paying massive bribes or fees, transportation costs. Yeah, it's both actually, isn't it? Enormously magnified transportation costs and gigantic bribes to the Spacing Guild. So this seems to be, as much as the Bene Gesserit sell out their kind of services, education-wise, training and stuff like that, the Guild, really, it's transport and bribery, isn't it? So Ix have joined the groups of, there's Ix, the Fremen, whoever is involved with Tupoli, the secret planet that the great houses can flee to from the Book of Dune, and we also have this new Ixian colony. So all of these, the Fremen as well, have been involved in Spacing Guild bribes, if you like. At the time, Leto had warned the Ixians that he would punish them if they had acted against him. They had responded with consternation and accused the Guild of betraying them. That had amused Leto, and he had responded with such a burst of laughter that the Ixians were abashed. He had then informed them in a cold, accusatory tone that he had no need for spies or traitors or other ordinary trappings of government. Let me get Leto's thoughts here. Did they not believe he was a god? Interesting. For a time thereafter, the Ixians were responsive to his requests. Leto had not abused the relationship. His demands were modest. A machine for this, a device for that. He would state his needs, and presently the Ixians would deliver the required technological toy. That's an interesting phrase. I'll come back to it in a wee second. Only once had they tried to deliver a violent instrument inside one of his machines. He had slain the entire Ixian delegation before they could even unwrap the thing. Technological toy. Bear with me a wee second, folks. I'm just going to mute this. I need to blow my nose real bad. Da, 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 that's better. Technological toys is technological toy syndrome is a term that Frank Herbert uses kind of in a response to comments, particularly I think by Isaac Asimov, and the likes of Arthur C. Clarke and perhaps even Heinlein. Frank Herbert is not fond of science fiction that features what he calls technological toy syndrome. We're not really being told what these toys are here. But it's a bug that he has, I think. This isn't that. I suppose this isn't that kind of science fiction, really, but in some senses it is, oddly enough, with the development of certain technologies within the Dune universe. But he doesn't seem to be fond of it. I was actually thinking about, oddly enough, in relation to this, I have a couple of interviews somewhere, and I think you'll be able to find them online. And I thought at some point we can have a read through them. Playboy, I think they're called the Playboy interviews. Is it Mother Nature magazine, something like that? Perhaps, I can't remember. I've got the references in my PhD stuff, but I've actually got them somewhere here in a box, printed out. One is an interview with Frank Herbert. The other one's an interview with Isaac Asimov, and the two interviews together make a very interesting kind of run through of some science fiction ideas. But just technological toy syndrome is a term that Frank has kind of discussed in relation to science fiction writing in general. He's not fond of science fiction that uses technological toys to sort their problems out. This kind of thing. I don't know, you get almost something like The Lensman, where you get this constant acceleration and evolution of technology that drives the book sort of forward at a breakneck speed. It's a thing that is in a lot of science fiction, but often is a big part of the ideas of sci-fi, and science fiction has presented us, excuse me, this light's starting to bug me here a wee bit. Can't just quite get it set up right today. There we go, that's a bit better. Yeah, it's a thing. It's interesting, I suppose. Some writers really, it depends on if they're hard sci-fi or soft sci-fi, if you like, but some writers really go for the gadget, if you like. A lot of them really actually push ideas, that actually that end up creating gadgets and stuff like that. A great example would be Robert A. Heinlein's Waldo Inc., where we have a character who's got like a kind of brittle bone kind of problem, ends up having to live in zero gravity, and ends up building all these wonderful mechanical arms, which we call today telefactors, but are actually still known by the title of the book as Waldos. So there's been science fiction story ideas that have actually brought to fruition technology, and actually Frank is guilty of this himself, I suppose. Not that it's a crime, but Frank's ideas from his first science fiction book, The Dragon in the Sea, where you have submarines towing these massive inflatable, reusable oil barges, as they're described, ended up with them being created by Dunlop and are what you call dracones today. And they were used during the Suez crisis, and most recently they've kind of had an evolution, almost like a meme machine type thing, where they've been inflated and deployed around warships to stop little suicide bombing boats, fill them up with air, and they create a giant rubber barrier around a ship. Quite interestingly enough. So just thought it was a particular phrase and we'd point it out, Chai says, I have this has amused Leto. You read that instead of this paragraph starting at the time Leto warned. Bear with me a second. Yeah, I was so tired when I was doing my notes. I've got tons of emails that I've had to scribble out. Let me just quickly check. Where are we? This amused Leto. Where did we get that? Ah, there it is. Sorry, just scanning for it now. Let's see. Ba, 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 ba. This is unusually read that instead of this. Well, I'm trying to find it here. Where are we? This had amused. As it was a typo by me, right? And it's how actually with the gene manipulation other than Hwi. I don't recall Ixians venturing away so far from tech. Yeah, that is an interesting thing. Why are they at this now? Right. Bear with me a second to see if I can find this. Right, paragraph starting at the time Leto warned. Right, let's have a look for that. Got it. Right, find it. This had amused Leto. Right, okay, let's check my copy of the book. So this had amused Leto, and he had, and you've got, what did I say? That, oh yeah, that's me just being tired. I've got that as well. Sorry, I just misread it. Thank you though. Anyway, see what I mean? I've ended up doing I've written things out twice, and I wrote your instead of our there. I've scribbled them out and fixed them, but I'm kind of stumbling over them as I read them again. It's just I've been dog tired the last 2 days while doing this. I'm really trying not to make any mistakes. But I was at this morning from when I got up. I did about a couple of pages and then had to go sleep for about 4 or 5 hours. Absolutely shattered. So I do apologise a wee bit. Not 100% today, folks. I'm trying to keep it together. But thank you as always. No, it's really important to check these books. But usually, sometimes it's me and sometimes it's Frank. So they're saying, let's see. Regarding eggs starting to colonize early, perhaps the animal-human hybrid controlled by the honored Matres started out as an Ixian breeding project. The town actually were into gene manipulation other than Hwi. I don't recall Ixians venturing away so far from tech. Yeah, it's as I said, the idea of an Ixian breeding program is an interesting one, and that they're able to breed specific people for specific tasks, if you like. That if Hwi has been created, possibly we're told that she has parents. We don't know if it's a breeding program such as the one that's used by the Bene Gesserit, or where they're very, how would we put it, they're completely adverse to the idea of using artificial insemination or any of those kind of techniques that might be used by the Tanaxu, for example. It does look like the breeding program, there's the guild involved in this, the Bene Gesserit involved in this, but it's suggestive of breeding to purpose, if you like. Seems very much a kind of Tanaxu idea. Yeah, it's the whole question of Hwi, Malky, and their creation is an interesting one, you know. Carlos saying, Chai, I believe that the majority of Ixians were a genetically designed worker class, but I'm not sure whether they did that themselves or had Tanaxu help. Oh, okay. It's interesting. I don't recall that at all, Carlos. Is that a Frank thing or a Brian and KJA thing? Saying that, my memory of the last two books isn't so hot. Are we jumping down a bit, perhaps, or moving forward? You know, because all we really see of the Ixians in this, I think, so far are their ambassadors, aren't they? Are they all bred for a particular thing? Who knows? You know. Right, where did we get to, folks? No need for spies or traitors or the ordinary trappings. I'll go with, it was technological toy. I'll just run through that paragraph again and move on. For a time thereafter, the Ixians were responsive to his requests. Leto had not abused the relationship. His demands were modest. A machine for this, a device for that. He would state his needs, and presently the Ixians would deliver the required technological toy. So the engineers. Only once have they tried to deliver a violent instrument inside one of his machines. He had slain the entire Ixian delegation before they could even unwrap the thing. The interesting thing there is, what was it? So this is the second thing that we've been not told. And again, I've just written down preserves mystery, creates that sense of what's going on, I wonder what it was. And I've written also next to it was like a kind of hunter-seeker, possibly. Hwi Noree waited patiently while Leto mused. Not the slightest sign of impatience surfaced. Beautiful, he thought. In view of his long association with the Ixians, this new stance sent the juices coursing through Leto's body. Ordinarily, the passions, crises, and necessities which had produced and impelled him burned low. He often felt that he had outlived his times, but the presence of a Hwi Noree said he was needed. This pleased him. Leto felt that it might even be possible that the Ixians had achieved a partial success with their machine to amplify the linear prescience of a guild navigator. A small blip in the flow of great events might have escaped him. Could they really make such a machine? What a marvel that would be! Purposefully, he refused to use his powers for even the smallest search through this possibility. That's interesting. Um, so he won't use his prescience at all for this to look at it. A machine to amplify the linear prescience of a guild navigator tells us a little bit about their prescience, first of all, in terms of what it's used, but it's a machine to amplify it. And I think ultimately it will become a machine to replace them, won't it? Could they really make such a machine? Surely with the machines that they're providing for him, why not? What a marvel that would be. And I would imagine he might just go, I must have one. But he refuses to use his powers for even the smallest search through this possibility. We're going to see how he uses his powers in terms of prescience later. And why? We get his thoughts here. I wish to be surprised. Leto smiled benignly at Hwi. How have they prepared you to woo me? He asked. She did not blink. I don't think it's a great phrase, that, to woo somebody. It's an interesting word, isn't it? She did not blink. I was provided with a set of memorized responses for particular exigencies, she said. I learned them as I was required, but I do not intend to use them. Which is exactly what they want, Leto thought. Tell your masters, he said, that you are precisely the right kind of bait to dangle in front of me. She bowed her head. If it pleases, my lord. Yes, you do. It's a bit creepy in some ways, isn't it? We get the use of prescience here, which is what I've kind of put in a wee note here, as opposed to these ideas of these Ixian machines that could potentially disrupt the balance of this universe, I suppose, upend it. Here we go. He indulged himself in a small temporal probe to examine Hwi's immediate future. Tracing the threads of her past through this, Hwi appeared in a fluid future, a current whose movements were susceptible to many deflections. She would know Shanna in only a casual way, unless questions flowed through Leto's mind. A guild steersman was advising the Ixians, and he obviously had detected Shanna's disturbance in the temporal fabric. Did the steersman really believe he could prove security against the God Emperor's detection? So, yeah, there are different groups working together here. I'm happy to throw each other under the bus, I think, as well. But Ix, Bene Gesserit, and the Guild seem to be the main group. The temporal probe took several minutes. I suppose to look at several minutes of the future, you've got to waste several minutes of the present, don't you? But Hwi did not fidget. Leto looked at her carefully. She seemed timeless, outside of time, in a deeply peaceful way. He had never before encountered a common mortal able to wait thus in front of him without some nervousness. Where were you born, Hwi? He asked. On Ix itself, Lord. I mean specifically. The building, its location, your parents, the people around you, friends and family, your schooling. all of it. I never knew my parents, Lord. I was told they died while I was still an infant. Do you believe this? At first, of course. Later, I built fantasies. I even imagined that Malky was my father. But she shook her head. You did not like your uncle Malky? No, I didn't. Oh, I admired him. My reaction precisely, Leto said. But what of your friends and your schooling? My teachers were specialists. Even some Bene Gesserits were brought in to train me in emotional control and observation. Malky said I was being prepared for great things. And your friends? I don't think I've ever had any real friends, only people who were brought in. Sorry, I'll read that again. I don't think I've ever had any real friends, only people who were brought in contact with me for specific purposes in my education. I've made a wee note here. That reminds me of young Paul Atreides. So, as much as we have this constant reuse, constant reiteration of ideas, of themes, of plots, of motifs, of plans within plans within plans, and basic structure of the story, constantly going within the Dune series, to drive us ultimately towards paradox. We've had the mention of Ixian caution, and now we have a main character here, Hwi, as a young person, seemingly quite lonely, not really having any friends, only dealing with her tutors. Ixian caution and Hwi kind of line up with Atreides caution and Paul, which is interesting. How is she to woo him? How is she to entice him? Yeah, there's more to Hwi, I think, than meets the eye, isn't there? Are these great things for which you were trained? Did anyone ever speak of those? Malky said I was being prepared to charm you, Lord. How old are you, Hwi? I don't know my exact age. I guess I'm about 26. I've never celebrated a birthday. Pardon me. I only learned about birthdays by accident. One of my teachers giving an excuse for her absence. I never saw that teacher again. Bye-bye. Kind of wondered why doesn't she have a kind of a regular birthday, etc. It's probably to do with her isolation, if you like. There are other ways of getting a sense of time. She's a vague idea that she's about 26, but no exact knowledge of her birthday. Sense of time being disrupted with Hwi, I think, is important, and important to Leto. Leto found himself fascinated by this response. His observations provided him with certainty that there had been no Tleilaxu interventions into her Ixian flesh. She had not come from a Tleilaxu axolotl tank. Why the secrecy then? So there we go. Has there been any? There's no Tleilaxu interventions, no little upgrades or secret implants or any of that kind of stuff. She's purely an Ixian creation. But I think it doesn't mean that the Tleilaxu haven't had conversations, if you see what I mean, with the Ixians. Does your uncle Malky know your age? Perhaps, but I haven't seen him for many years. Didn't anyone tell you how old you were? No. Why do you suppose that is? Maybe they thought I'd ask if I were interested. Sorry, just before, I'll just jump back there because I'd written a little note under that and I forgot to read it there. No Tleilaxu interventions into her Ixian flesh. She did not come from a Tleilaxu, but she's not a Gola, and also has no Bene Tleilaxu traits. But just wanted to put that there. She's not a Gola of some kind. Didn't anyone tell you how old you were? No. Why do you suppose that is? Maybe they thought I'd ask if I were interested. Were you interested? Yes. Then why didn't you ask? I thought at first there might be a record somewhere. I looked. There was nothing. I reasoned that they would not answer my question. For what it tells me about you, Hwi, that answer pleases me very much. I, too, am ignorant of your background, but I can make an enlightened guess at your birthplace. Her eyes focused on his face with a charged intensity which had no pretense in it. You were born within this machine your masters are trying to perfect for the guild, Leto said. You were conceived there as well. It may even be that Malky was your father. That is not important. Do you know about this machine, Hwi? I'm not supposed to know about it, Lord, but another indiscretion by one of your teachers? By my uncle himself? A burst of laughter erupted from Leto. Ha 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 ha! What a rogue, he said. What a charming rogue. Lord, this is his revenge on your masters. He did not like being removed from my court. He told me at the time that his replacement was less than a fool. I'm going to have to blow my nose again, folks. Give me 1 wee second here. Sorry about that, folks. Many apologies, as they say. Cynthia was saying, sorry, I read through that one. So that was Carlos's one saying, I believe that the majority of Ixians were genetically designed working class, but I'm not sure whether they did that themselves or had Tylax who helped. Why would Leto reveal to the Ix that they had succeeded so well in creating Hwi? Maybe to protect her, but it also exposes him. It almost seems that there's a back and forth of honesty, in a funny way, isn't it? Isn't it? It's her honesty. It's all those positive qualities that we read of Hwi. But it's almost like a foil in many ways, to the various political machinations. We have a wee kind of personal family motto, in this house. It's truth is our armor, our weapon, and our shield. And no matter what, if people tell lies about you, or do, all sorts of things can come your way. Believe it or not, honesty is a trait that a lot of people don't like. I've discovered in the world, but it's like blunt force trauma. You can fight your way through anything with the truth. Whereas if you're a consummate liar, you're like, the more you lie, the easier it is to catch you at it. I think, in a funny kind of way, lies. If the more you lie, the easier you are to be demonstrated as being a liar. And if you're a consistent liar, then you're simply unreliable, untrustworthy. So all of these political machinations, these deceptions, brutal honesty is probably a thing that the God Emperor admires and enjoys. No fakery, no pretense, this kind of thing. And if the Ixians have figured this out, it's almost that they've performed a psychological inspection of the God Emperor in order to create Hwi. She must be, as Poirot would say, just so. If you see what I mean. He probably knows that as well. So it's maybe a bit of back and forth in that sense. Throw a bit of direct honesty back at them. We even get the Ixians trying to throw the guild. Oh, the guild have betrayed us. Doesn't mean, and he laughs there, but it doesn't mean we didn't do it. It's just we did do it, but they've shopped us for it. If you see what I mean, it's not an absolute denial. So in some ways, it's like they're kind of like lies of omission or deceptions or passing the buck. A lot of that stuff seems to go on, whereas they responded with consternation. Accused the guild of betraying them. Isn't oh no, we didn't do this, or we're sorry we did it. It's their fault for telling on us. It's like, and it's just almost a childish thing to say. The Ixians were abashed by this. It's not a denial, is it? It's oh, he told on us. It's it's that kind of thing, I think. So no matter what, even when admitting to someone that you did something, they can't even admit it openly. And I think very much, therefore, if you've been putting up with this for 3,500 years, she certainly is a breath of fresh air. But it's probably taken astute, analysis of the God Emperor's personality to come up, if Hwi has been designed to entice him, is bait, which suggests a trap, doesn't it? They're obviously not as dumb as they're very, very smart, I think, but it's an intelligence. We tend to focus on them on their technological toys, but there must be more to them than that. I said the Guild are involved, the Bene Gesserit involved in this possibly as well. Though the Bene Gesserit's involvement with Hwi seems to be limited, that they can't, certain things that she's been educated for, but not to allow them to get their claws into her, But yeah, it's interesting stuff. And Chaya said Hwi has a similar combo of honesty and shrewdness, as did Chani as a foil to Paul. Yeah. Oh, Byzantine intrigue all the way. Oh, for goodness sake, that cigarette's absolutely. I'll have to make another one. Fall to bits on me. Yeah, I don't know. I find honesty. I'm brutally honest with people. I had to be very honest with somebody the other day. Who's a friend with Alzheimer's, just in relation to their health. I just had to tell them something straight up that they'd already been told and found offensive because they'd been told it by someone close to them, and I kind of totally agreed with what he'd been told and just told them as much, and explained it to him the hard way. I didn't pull any punches. I apologized for saying it to him, but just if you want the honest truth. It's just something he's doing that he needs to stop for his health, if he wants to keep living, basically. And that's how I put it to him. It's not a very nice thing to have to say to anybody. At the same time, there's many a person that wouldn't be able to say that to him directly to his face, and it's a hard thing what I had to say to him. It was an act of kindness, if you understand me. I'm sure it didn't sound like it to him. He was looking for somebody to be on his side. And I imagine after talking to me, he probably thought that I wasn't on his side when he's 100% wrong. If you see what I mean. What I said to him was to help him. I've been quite good at keeping people and things alive. And I'd like to see him live a good bit longer. It's that kind of thing. But yes, within all this politicking, the demagoguery that's going on in the world at the minute. I'm sure you've all heard about the big riots in Belfast following the attempted beheading of an individual. It's all been stoked by politicians like Nigel Farage and even that colossal idiot over in America, Elon Musk, has had his 10 cents worth. They have no idea of the situation over here at all. Northern Ireland's not a normal country, and it's not got normal people in it at all. If you know what I mean. It's we have lots and lots of psychos and mad people and nutters and all sorts. It's the Irish. It's just the Irish. That's how we are. Quite a lot of crazies here, But how people stir people up, incite them through their own ignorance, their own stupidity, work out their emotions, this kind of thing, manipulation all the way. It's very obvious to me, always has been. It's this kind of thing, so Byzantine intrigue runs throughout the Dune series. And especially with the level of plans, what the question is here: what is the Ixian plan? Sorry, because nothing's ever that straightforward. With any group within the Dune universe, there's always something else going on. Whatever we think is it's the little thing that's going on the undercurrent of something else. And we've seen that especially with the Syraxu. I think in the Bene Gesserit, the level of manipulation and deception in just about everything is intriguing. So yeah, the combination of her intelligence, her honesty, all of those good attributes. We're going to get a discussion of them actually in a moment here, aren't we? just coming up, we're going to get a run through of all of Hwi's attributes. So far, pretty. She's honest, and as Chaya points out, shrewd. She points out the flaws in the thinking of her masters, of her superiors, and she's generally correct, and they're not. And she often feels. I think we get the sense that she feels, especially when we had the interview with her, that this will work against her. And it's a kind of, no, you've got the job, which again speaks to a level of double, triple thinking. It's the plots within Dune, the mystery, what's really going on. Is one of the things I really like about the stories. I've said some things we get answers to, and some we don't. And so we've got things here within this chapter where we're getting little mysteries dropped for us. Will we find out the answers to some of them? Maybe not. So we get this. She's not supposed to know about this machine. I'm not supposed to know about it, Lord, but not supposed to know, but she does. Another indiscretion by one of your teachers, by my uncle himself. What a rogue. And he laughs, what a rogue, what a charming rogue. Lord, this is his revenge on your masters. He did not like being removed from my court. He told me at the time that his replacement was less than a fool. Interestingly enough, therefore, Malky's probably last action, and if we have to go with it, Malky, at this point, I'm wondering, is his replacement? What's his name? Sorry, bear with me a wee second. Is it Kobat? Yeah, Kobat. Was his replacement Kobat? Because Malky wouldn't be that old. If you see, I mean, he's immortal. He's a mortal. Sorry. Need to enunciate there. So he's still alive in this book. He's grey-haired, etc. It can't be too far back that he's been replaced. I think. But what is basically, it seems that basically his last action before being removed from the court of Leto II is to undermine his replacement with the God Emperor. A complex man, my uncle. Listen to me carefully, Hwi. Some of your associations here on Arrakis could be dangerous to you. I will protect you as I can. Do you understand? I think so, Lord. She stared up at him solemnly. Now, a message for your masters. It is clear to me that they have been listening to the Tleilaxu in a perilous fashion. So there we go. There is a connection with the Tleilaxu. Tell them for me that their purposes are quite transparent. So it's listening. There's no evidence of the Tleilaxu's technological abilities within the creation of Hwi, but there is a breeding program going on. They breed. The Bene Gesserit breed, and now the Ixians and the God Emperor. We've got 4 breeding programs on the go here. There's no Tleilaxu interference, but listening is it the sharing of ideas, how to do this, if you like, how to create such an individual. And again, have the Ixians figured out their own ways based on this. Tell them for me that their purposes are quite transparent. Lord, I have no knowledge of. I am aware of how they use you, Hwi. For this reason, you may tell your masters also that you are to be the permanent ambassador to my court. I will not welcome another Ixian. And should your masters ignore my warnings, trying further interference with my wishes, I shall crush them. Tears welled up from her eyes and ran down her cheeks, but Leto was grateful that she did not indulge in any other display, such as falling to her knees. So her emotions are on display, but they're not overly stated. She's not, oh, please don't, not bowing and kowtowing to him. She's maintaining her poise and so on. I already have warned them, she said. Truly I did. I told them they must obey you. Leto could see that this was true. Honesty. What a marvelous, we get Leto's thoughts here. What a marvelous creature this Hwi Noree, he thought. She appeared the epitome. Oh, here, okay, here we're going to get a big pile of her traits in the next couple of paragraphs. Here we go. She appeared the epitome of goodness, obviously bred and conditioned for this quality by her Ixian masters with their careful calculation of the effect this would have on the God Emperor. That's quite interesting. Out of his thronging ancestral memories, Leto could see her as an idealized nun, kindly and self-sacrificing, all sincerity. It was her most basic nature, the place where she lived. She found it easiest to be truthful and open, capable of shading this only to prevent pain from others. He saw this latter trait as the deepest change the Bene Gesserit had been able to effect in her. Hwi's real manner remained outgoing, sensitive, and naturally sweet. Leto could find little sense of manipulative. Sorry, I'll read that again. Leto could find little sense of manipulative calculation in her. She appeared immediately responsive and wholesome, excellent at listening, another Bene Gesserit attribute. There was nothing openly seductive about her, yet this very fact made her profoundly seductive to Leto. Now, the only little thing there, sorry, I stumbled over that because I had a little note next to it and I nearly read that. He could find little sense of manipulative calculation in her. My note next to that is little is not none. There must be, yeah, it's an interesting way of putting it, isn't it? Nothing openly seductive about her, nothing kind of overt in her sexuality, or nothing vulgar or this kind of thing. The idealized nun, if you like, yet makes her profoundly seductive. Something very attractive to Leto. It's all of these qualities: self-sacrificing, sincere, truthful, open, prevents pain in others, is actually really outgoing, sensitive, naturally sweet, responsive, wholesome, excellent at listening, the epitome of goodness as well. You know, it's a whole. There are an awful lot of positive traits. I don't know. Could you? What a person like that. I've never met anybody like that. To be honest with you, I've met people with a bunch of those traits, but there's always, everyone's got something, I suppose. But the little thing was that you could find a little sense of manipulative calculation in her. But she is, yeah, there's possibly some. She is, after all, designed to woo him. And the question is she, in her consciousness of that, is she entirely is she entirely conscious of all the ways that she could be seductive to Leto? Or is it some of it, is there parts of her own personality, her breeding, her conditioning, her education that she's maybe subtly unaware of, if you see what I mean? Oh, we've got another wee mistake here. Hang on. My text says it is clear to me that they have been listening to a guild steersman and they have joined themselves to the taxi on a pair. Oh, that's a good bit missing, isn't it? Right, hang on. Let's find that. Where do we get that? Sorry, that was recent there, wasn't it? Let's see. It's clear to me that they've been listening to a guild steersman. Where did we get that? I read that a moment ago. All right. Bear with me just to find that, folks. I'll use that opportunity to grab some fluids. There it is. Got it. Bear with me a second. Note number 69. Let's get the book. I've been listening to the tonight. Okay, yeah, I have a good chunk missing. Let's find that. Yeah, that's my fault. That's old tired Russ. Bear with me a second, folks. Pen, where are you? Where did all the pens go? There we go. Thank you very much. Well spotted, guys. That's me, Chaya and Cynthia. Cheers. Let me see. I've left out a bit there. So that paragraph, I read now, a message for your masters. It is clear to me that they have been listening to, yeah, I've missed a bit out, a guild steersman, and they have joined themselves to the Tylaxu in a perilous fashion. Right. I've got a space at the back here. Hang on. Right, here we go. Let's see if I can scribble this in on the top here. Thank you very much, Guild Steersman, and they have joined themselves. Goodness, that changes things, doesn't it? Themselves. To the Tylaxu in a perilous fashion. Tell them for me that their purposes are quite transparent. Fixed. Thank you very much. And I will rewrite that out for clarity at the back of the chapter. I've got it scribbled in it. Let me see, can I make it out? Here to me. Right, hang on. There we go. That's where it belongs. Okay. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, sorry, bear with me a second here. It's clear to me that they have been listening to the Tylaxu. No, that's the two listens that they have been listening to the guild steersman, and they have joined themselves to the. That's it. It's okay. Got it fixed. Right. Yeah, it's okay. Sorry, I was just misreading it again. Thank you very much. That's fixed. I'll read that wee passage. That was just back a wee bit, folks, because we were talking about the Tylaxu, how they involved here. Now, a message for your masters. It is clear to me that they have been listening to a guild steersman, and they have joined themselves to the Tylaxu in a perilous fashion. Tell them for me that their purposes are quite transparent. Lord, I have no knowledge of. Yes, indeed. Right. Thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated. I haven't been too bad, actually, considering the state of my tiredness. God, I could have slept for 1,000 years today. I really could. I got a good four hours in the afternoon, but not been sleeping well lately. Thank you very much. Let's see, what a marvelous. Yeah, we went through all her traits there. Nothing openly seductive about her, yet this very fact made her profoundly seductive to Leto. So yeah, they're definitely involved somehow in the the Tylaxu. It's just that their technologies have not ended up, I suppose. I think it's possibly an exchange of ideas or something like that. But yes, indeed, that their purposes are quite transparent. They have joined themselves to the Tylaxu in a perilous fashion. So I suppose within that we've got the Bene within the Ixians and what they're up to. We've got the Bene Gesserit helping them out. We've got the Guild helping them out, and we've also got the Bene Tylax. And it seems those groups almost are in orbit around the Ixians, if that makes sense. The question is why. Right. There was nothing openly seductive. Back to where we were. Sorry, thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated. There was nothing openly seductive about her, yet the very fact made her profoundly seductive to Leto. Now we get a flashback into the past. And as he had remarked to one of the earlier Duncans on a similar occasion, you must understand this about me, a thing which some obviously suspect. Sometimes it's unavoidable that I have delusionary sensations. The feeling that somewhere inside this changeling form of mine, there exists an adult human body with all of the necessary functions. I've kind of wondered about this, actually. I have a wee note here, because Leto's symbiotic transformation as far as we can tell, begins around the age of 10 or 11, I think. You know, I think I've pointed this out a few times. I guess at the point of puberty, really, that the change he goes through isn't going to be a normal one. Um, this suggests that he grows to an adult human with the skin, I suppose, before the full transformation into the pre-worm body, if you like. It's a thing to wonder. We're getting a wee bit of info about it from the God Emperor here, whether it's reliable or not. And he seems to be discussing some kind of like, how would you put it? Is it phantom limb syndrome? This kind of thing. Somewhere inside this changeling form of mine, there exists an adult human body with all of the necessary functions. All of them, Lord? The Duncan had asked. All. I feel the vanished parts of myself. I can feel my legs, quite unremarkable and so real to my senses. I can feel the pumping of my human glands, some of which no longer exist. I can even feel genitalia, which I know, intellectually, vanished centuries ago. But surely, if you know, knowledge does not suppress such feelings. The vanished parts of myself are still there in my personal memories and in the multiple identities of all my ancestors. And we're back to the now. I don't know, there's something funny about this. It's I can feel my legs, quite unremarkable and so real to me. I know what it is. It's one of my all-time favorite jokes. That's what's kicking into my head. It's it's such a stupid joke. It's the one with the guy's in hospital. He goes, doctor, I can't feel my legs. And the doctor says, that's because I've amputated your arms. I love that joke. That's an absolute classic. I wonder who came up with it. It's a very good one. That I think it's just that's what it reminded me of. That's why I'm finding it funny. In fact, I'm sure it is. So apologies. That's one of my bits of whimsy. I'm sorry, folks. So we're back to the present from this little flashback. As Leto looked at Hwi standing in front of him, it helped not one whit to know he had no skull, and that what once had been his brain was now a massive web of ganglia spread through his pre-worm flesh. Nothing helped. He could still feel his brain aching where it had once reposed. He could still feel his skull throbbing. So I suppose it's not just phantom limb syndrome, it's phantom head syndrome, phantom brain syndrome, phantom genitalia syndrome, I suppose. But just standing there in front of him, Hwi cried out to his lost humanity. It was too much for him, and he moaned in despair. Despair, I think we've had a wee chat about that before. It's an interesting word. Why do your masters torture me? Lord, by sending you. I would not hurt you, Lord. Just by existing, you hurt me. I did not know. Tears fell unrestrained from her eyes. They never told me what they were really doing. And she doesn't know. We don't know either. He calmed himself and spoke softly. Leave me now, Hwi. Go about your business, but return quickly if I summon you. She left quietly, but Leto could see that Hwi too was tortured. There was no mistaking the deep sadness in her for the humanity Leto had sacrificed. She knew what Leto knew. They would have been friends, lovers, companions in an ultimate sharing between the sexes. Her masters had planned for her to know. Yeah, it's empathy, isn't it, really? I think is probably what I think really what's coming across here. She feels for him, and she feels pretty deeply for him, doesn't she? And it's because of that, the nature of his sacrifice. She refers to him as holy earlier. The idealized nun, if you like. Nuns are brides of Christ, aren't they? Nuns in this country have a long time association with some really, really horrible, utterly evil things. Separating babies from mother. All just nuns are considered quite evil. Irish nuns, we'll just say, not all nuns, but Irish nuns are not. They're not seen as nice. Or you know, a lot of people go to Catholics, got horror stories about these women. I'm sure you're aware of a few movies about the subject. Of the Irish orphanages and stuff, and removing children from their mothers, and sending them all over the world. I think Dara O'Brien's recently, the Irish comedian's recently done a wee thing on that. I think he was one. But yeah, nuns don't have a particularly good reputation in this country. But I suppose, in a bit like the way the fish speakers relationship to Leto, you can consider nuns are brides of Christ, if you like. Is Hwi being prepared to be a bride of Leto? It makes me even think a wee bit of Bride of Frankenstein, these kind of things, Where are we? Sorry. Back to that. Yes, indeed. She's empathy, isn't it? She's very empathic. And the fact that she's hurting him by her this hurts her. It's not a very nice thing to say to somebody. Just by existing, you hurt me. This call, tears fell unrestrained from her eyes. This wounds her. It makes her sad. And she leaves quietly too. There's no, off she goes, striding off as people are wont to do. We get Leto's thoughts here. The Ixians are cruel. He thought they knew what our pain would be. Let me just check. Yeah, sorry. My awful handwriting there. Oh, no. Hang on, I just changed the wrong word there. Goodness gracious. There we go, fixed. The Ixians are cruel. He thought they knew what our pain would be. And the pain is for both of them. Hwi's departure ignited memories of her uncle Malky. Malky was cruel, but Leto had rather enjoyed his company. Malky had possessed all of the industrious virtues of his people and enough of their vices to make him thoroughly human. Malky had reveled in the company of Leto's fish speakers. Your Horus, he had called them, and Leto could seldom think of the fish speakers thereafter without recalling Malky's label. We've had a wee chat about that prior to this. There's a few words here that I suppose we've actually have looked them up and explained them earlier, so that's why we don't kind of repeat that here. So there's enough work to do, I suppose. He could seldom think. Leto could seldom think of the fish speakers thereafter without recalling Malky's label. We get Leto's thoughts here. Why do I think of Malky now? It's not just because of Hwi. I shall ask her what charge her masters gave her when they sent her to me. Leto hesitated on the verge of calling her back. She'll tell me if I ask. That's Leto's thoughts there. She'll tell me if I ask. Ixian ambassadors had always been told to find out why the God Emperor tolerated Ix. I think it's kind of obvious, isn't it? They knew they could not hide from him. This stupid attempt to plant a colony beyond the vision. Were they testing his limits? The Ixians suspected that Leto did not really need their industries. So I think they're wrong in this. I think it's for the simple reason that he does. We'll find that out in a wee moment here. We get Leto's thoughts here. I never concealed my opinion of them. I said it to Malky. Technological, this is another flashback again, sorry. Technological innovators? No, you're the criminals of science in my empire. Malky had laughed. Irritated. Leto had accused. Oh, hang on. Bear with me. That's my bad handwriting again. Before we read that, what have we got? Yeah, sorry, I've just added a letter there. That's bad. There we go. Score that out. Oh, I hate doing this when I'm tired, folks. But at the same time, really want to get them done each week. If you see what I mean, we push on and do our best. Let's see. Yeah, there we go. Why? Right. Leto had accused. Why try to hide secret laboratories and factories beyond the Empire's rim? You cannot escape me. Yes, Lord. Laughing. Sorry, bear with me a wee second. Yeah, laughing. I put in wee ha-ha-has when characters laugh. Yes, Lord, laughing. I know your intent. Leak a bit of this and some of that back into my imperial domains. Disrupt. Cause doubts and questioning. Lord, you yourself are one of our best customers. That's not what I mean, and you know it, you terrible man. You like me because I'm a terrible man. I tell you stories about what we do out there. I know it without your stories. But some stories are believed and some are doubted. I dispel your doubts. I have no doubts. I've written next to this, is that true? Um, is Malky spot on here? Is more insightful than we think. And the reason why I wrote that was in relation to the blip that we're told about. And the blip that he doesn't want to check out with prescience. He's happy to use his prescience to run through Hwi's fluid future. But he doesn't use it in relation to what the Ixians are actually up to. And the reason is, I wish to be surprised. He refused to use his powers for even the smallest search through this possibility. But how was it described? Was it like a blip or something? Let me just find that. The blip. Something he's missed. Again, it reminds me of Paul's prescience. I think the biggest problem with the way that Paul's prescience problems, if you like, prescient problems are highlighted the best is through the medics in Dune Messiah, and that ignorance, all of the things with the medics. If everything's not quite right there, all of that in relation to the birth of Chani's child. At that point in his future, he only sees Ganima. He doesn't see twins. And for some reason, I don't think he ever meets with the medics, does he? But yeah, there's a blip somewhere that he hasn't noticed this. And so he's again, because he doesn't look at everything. There it is. Bear with me. This pleased him. Leto felt that it might even be possible that the Ixians had achieved a partial success with their machine to amplify the linear prescience of Guild Navigator. A small blip in the flow of great events might have escaped him. So things escape him, if you see what I mean. Some stories are believed, some are doubted. I dispel your doubts. I have no doubts. Is that true or is it a lie? To be honest with you, I honestly don't think it's true. But the God Emperor revels in these kind of things anyway, because he's thoroughly bored with existence. He's got existential ennui, hasn't he? I have no doubts, which had only ignited more of Malky's laughter. And we come back to the now, and we get Leto's thoughts. And I must continue tolerating them, Leto thought. The Ixians operated in the terra incognita of creative invention, which had been outlawed by the Butlerian Jihad. They had made their devices in the image of the mind, the very thing which had ignited the Jihad's destruction and slaughter. That was what they did on Ix, and Leto could only let them continue. And again, his thoughts here, I buy from them. I could not even write my journals without their dictatels to respond to my unspoken thought. Without Ix, I could not have hidden my journals and the printers. But they must be reminded of the dangers in what they do. So he's dependent on them. The interesting thing, I suppose, is that if we think about the way the Ixians probe at him, different groups probe at him, but particularly, apart from directly attacking him, which anybody who directly attacks the God Emperor seems to end up dead, but he seems to make threats, constant threats to them. Oh, I'll do this and I'll destroy you. I'm warning you. He doesn't. And it's over and over again, this kind of thing, that maybe each time he threatens them, they go, well, he said that the last time. That doesn't, he needs this. He needs our machines. Are they starting to doubt that? Is it true? He does. He needs their gear. He is reliant on them, and his little cart, his dictatel. He's got machines inside members of his own staff's head. He again, the richest person in the universe is him. He's probably number one customer. He gets probably all the prototypes, this kind of thing. But he buys from them. I buy from them, and I could not even write my journals without their dictatels to respond to my unspoken thought, which is an interesting thing. I find that kind of funny because I remember some people asking me when we started doing this book club and all, how are you doing your note taking and stuff? What software are you using? And recommending a couple of notation things. Here's my tools. There you go. The Bic. I was working with ink pens for a while and they all dried up, but I've been on Bics and biros, paper and pen. And a highlighter. There's the and I wonder, can he not write with his little flappy hands? This kind of thing. That's interesting. My father, we still get them in the post. I must see if I can show them to you sometime. I think I don't know where they are exactly, but we've got a calendar. But my dad supported. My dad was into his. My dad was a painter, and like painting just as a hobby. He was apprenticed to. Oddly enough, I've got it sitting here. He was apprenticed to quite a famous Irish artist, and that's him there. There you go, Bobby Anderson. That picture is one of his. It's very famous. That picture is called Paddy's Pride, with your guy wearing the old Ulster coat and his pint of Guinness. And it is Guinness. Yeah, my dad's supported. I'll show you these, by the way. If you haven't seen, this is quite a famous. He's long dead now. I don't know. I'll tell you what. Hang on. I'll see what I can do that. There you go. These are some of the works of Bobby Anderson. There he is up at the top himself. 1995. My dad. He taught my dad how to draw. We have his oldest painting, by the way, believe it or not, which is this is from, I think, an auction thing, isn't it, or something? I had a print of Paddy's Pride, but I gave it to my cousins in Australia. There's Pulling the Lent and Oil Willie. Let's see if you can see these kind of things. It was very good. There's the stonemason cutting the turf. Any Seamus Heaney digging. There we go. Life and a wee rest I like. And then on the back, there's the Bushmills globe. Somebody having some whiskey. And then we have the rope makers and checking its age and washing at the sink. There you go. That's a bunch of Bobby Anderson's painting. If you're ever up in this part of the world, you'll find a lot of the hotels and stuff. He did a very famous picture once of a racehorse that it was done to pay off a bar tab, and apparently it was like I can't remember what racehorse it was. I think it was in the Railway Bar in Korea, and it used to be up across the whole bar. It was a huge landscape type painting of this horse, and somebody broke in and stole it specifically. But my dad, just thinking of the God Emperor's little flippers and stuff like that, not being able to write with his hand. My dad used to support artists who have no hands or feet, and oddly enough, they're I can't remember what they call it. This is the foot and mouth artists or something, and they present these little calendars and cards every year, and you can send them a donation. And my dad supported them for years, always sending a wee thing off to a bit of money off to them every year. And all of the artists there have no hands or feet, basically. And the artwork's phenomenal. They're such talented painters. It just kind of popped into my head a wee bit there. It's been a weird day. Um, yeah, so he's dependent on these machines to write his notes. He has a dependency on X. They must be reminded of the dangers in what they do. Direct connection to our Butlerian jihad. X kind of escaped the worst prescriptions of the Butlerian jihad, which means they've been up to this for a long time, this kind of stuff. But I'm assuming that they've been keeping it hidden. And the guild could not be allowed to forget. That was easier. Even while guildsmen cooperated with Ix, they distrusted the Ixians mightily. And his last thoughts here: if this new Ixian machine works, the guild has lost its monopoly on space travel. And that's the end of our chapter. I've made a wee note here that if this machine works, this will shift the balance of power fundamentally in terms of dependency in the universe. The payoff for the guild would be that they would no longer need Melange for their navigators. Would they lose their monopoly? Perhaps not, because they have the ships, etc. And I've written next to this, they would still own ships and charts and stuff like that. Weirdly enough, just talking about that, just after, I think I was telling you about this earlier today, just after we figured out that we sold our house, maybe Torque, this is Holly and Noodles, broke on me. Thing was a wee present from my parents for my 21st birthday with my wee hounds on it, so I'll have to get it fixed. Not that I'm superstitious or read anything into things like that, but it was a wee bit of a, oh no. It happened just after we went, yeah, we've sold the house, we're getting out of here. And it snapped. It was a weird thing. So there we go, folks. An interesting chapter to tear through. Dialogue heavy. Not a lot to really sort of come up with notes on. I did in terms of etymological work or anything like that, but I thought the stuff on Shoshin, the mind of first awareness, was quite interesting. And we got a little Doja and Zenji's death poem. The things that there you go, the new things we were talking about earlier, the surprises that you get in life. Every time I do this chat, these books, work through these books with you guys, with you good folk out there, almost every chapter, because of the level of detail we're going through, every week I'm learning a new word, a new phrase, a new idea, a new concept, all sorts of things that we're learning from these books. I think it's interesting to pick a book apart this way, especially a book that's built up on concepts of multiple religions, multiple cultures, multiple languages, multiple mythologies, etc., and real world multiple pilfering of other people's books to create something so unique and interesting as the Dune series. I hope you don't think bad of me when I talk about Frank and his pilfering, because it's in that sense that we've talked about it before. That bad writers borrow, great writers steal. If you see what I mean. It's an original work. It's just he's very good at pulling stuff from other people's work and not admitting to it. He doesn't want you to think it's someone else's idea, if you see what I mean. But it's a wonderful thing to flick through these books and analyze the language in such depth, and have you good folk keeping me right as well. Something leaders remember discussion with Malky suggested the Ixians were doing forbidden, terrible things outside the bounds of the Empire for some time. Yeah, well, we're told, that's what we're just saying there, we're told that they've escaped the prescriptions of the Butlerian jihad, that a couple of planets did, and that everybody else kind of had to suffer under it, but not X was one that was no. And it was possible that up until the point where we have Kwisatz Haderach, that there's nobody really with proper prescience that's able to eke them out, with the possible exception of the guild, who of course paid enormous bribes to keep things hush hush and on the QT. So yeah, so if that is the case, 3,500 years to get to this. It's not 3,500 years of technological development. It's what we're at 10. We're about 11. Where are we at? 10,191 from the start of the Dune series. add on about 3,500 years. We're talking about 13,000 years of, close to 14,000 years of working at these things, these technologies. The God Emperor says, I want this, and they provide a machine for it. Engineering, that's how engineers work. You want something? Okay, we go figure out how to build it. I'm a software engineer, by the way, not the other kind, but it's the same thing. If you I want a website to do something, I want a piece of software. Yeah, okay, let's figure it out. No bother. There's ways of doing it. We use methodologies and stuff like that. There's all sorts. So I find the Ixians quite interesting in terms of their scientific and engineering abilities at this point. But it speaks of a level of understanding of the psychology of the God Emperor. Oddly enough, what does it mean to be a god? And it's hard to be a god. Just by the way, to throw in another little. There we go. Everybody talks about Boris Arcadian Boris Stragatsky's Roadside Picnic and Andrei Tarkovsky film Stalker, but Alexei German's Hard to Be a God. If anybody hasn't seen it, go find it and watch it. It's just incredible. And it's the film of this Hard to Be a God. Which is an incredibly important book. I think it's fascinating, but the film is unbelievable. I think it's one of it's possibly in my top 10 movies of all time. It's about 3 hours long. We talked about it a wee bit back. Myself and my wife watched it over 3 nights because it was so intense, and we had just paying attention to it and looking at it. It's exquisite. It's incredible, and my wife enjoyed it on a different level than I did because I'd read the book. I kind of gave her the backstory of it just briefly, give her a quick synopsis of what's going on. Really, not the whole story, but just the setup of it. And we both watched it, and we were just glued to it. And it's something I can't wait to watch again. Actually, I must watch it again soon. There's actually another version of Hard to Be a God, which I've managed to get a hold of as well, but I haven't watched yet. But if anybody just wants another fantastic recommendation, science fiction masterworks. I don't know, do they have numbers? I don't think so. Yeah. Well, there's a bunch of their stuff I have to read yet, Roadside Picnic, Monday begins on Saturday. Snail on the Slope. There's a couple missing actually from this. Maybe it's got a different name that I have, but we pointed out novels by Arrakis. There's a whole bunch here that actually aren't there. They might have different names, but the 1 billion years to the end of the world we were just talking about at the start of this episode tonight, but this is one of the best ones. I'd actually say I've got one that I have to read yet. Is the Dune City. But in terms of all-time great science fiction, Hard to Be a God. Monday starts on Saturday. I just adore it. It's so funny. And of course, Roadside Picnic are just 3 of the greats, But I can't wait to read more stuff by them. I have to start hunting it out, But anyway, folks, there we go. Next chapter next week is a nice short one. I've been so busy this week with just trying to get the house sold and running about and lawyers and all this stuff. But we have a nice short chapter, thank God, for next week because I'm working like mad on our little sci-fi show program. And I want to get it out before a certain date, preferably before Midsummer's Day, because there's something's going to happen, something wonderful. But it's we're going to have a wee look at Rogue Trooper within it as well. I'll have a chat about that for you. We talked about the wonderful Rogue Malky, but we have the very, very wonderful Rogue Trooper. It is about to appear on our horizons just after Midsummer's Day, directed by Duncan Jones. It's going to be an animated feature film. It's got a very good cast, got a lot of good British comedians in it. Interestingly enough, in the side characters, I think even old Sean Bean's in it. But Rogue Trooper, I'm hoping it looks like it's based on the very early Rogue Trooper stories. and probably one of the big classics like Fort Nero. So it's early Rogue Trooper by the looks of it, and that's great stuff. So if it's faithful to the character, faithful to the universe, you should be. If you're not familiar with it, you should be in for a great animated movie, set in a very interesting future war universe, if you like. It's one of 2080's great characters. You know, in fact, at a certain point, we're probably one of three of their four main characters. Been having a wee look at some of the stuff there, so I'm prepping a little bit on that for you. Maybe we'll put it up as a separate program, part of the big thing as well. There we go, folks. I'm absolutely shattered, as I'm sure you've figured out by now. I've gone on about it enough. So I'll just say thank you very much to all of you for your help and for joining in tonight and stuff, as usual. It's great to see you all here. We'll be back next Thursday at 10 p.m. GMT +1 for chapter 22. We're making real headway in the book. Yeah, and goodness gracious, I'm starting to find writing the notes a wee bit hard with my hands in the state they're in. But as I said, just where I'm my reading for I'm hitting this the last book in the Hyperion Cantos. Something I've noticed about it just before I go is running through this is that there's a number of ideas in the Hyperion Cantos that are that you'll find within Ilium and Olympus. Simmons's other great geology, which I absolutely adore. And I've just been noticing all sorts of little things that are to do with old Earth, stuff to do with the technocore and things like that that are to do with those books. It's almost like his research within these books will lead him to his next science fiction set of classics. But just finished Endymion, adored it, just fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And I'm just about to start hitting this. And once we get these done, I'm turning into, and then I'm hitting Frank Herbert's books. So there we go. Looking forward to all of that. We must do a wee sci-fi program and find out what you're all reading soon. Cynthia's heading towards the for any God Emperor of Dune fans. I think this is an absolute must. Cynthia's got her copy on the way. Andreas Eschbach's Hair Carpet Weavers. Check it out. It's brilliant. Exquisite book. I adore it. But there we go. Enough about me gushing about science fiction. Carlos is Cynthia said, thanks, Doc, and all. No worries, Cynthia, thank you. And Carlos says, take it easy, everyone. Yes, indeed. Look after yourselves, folks. I'll head on. We'll see you next Thursday at 10 p.m. GMT +1. Be safe, be groovy, be excellent to one another, and we'll see you all real soon. Look after yourselves, and bye-bye. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Ba-da-da-da-ba-ba-ba.